Come up through the heels. Keep the abs tight. Perfect.
Kind of like
You doing
this.
all right? Yes, exactly. Perfect. Perfect. Couple more, we'll be all set. 3, 2.
Welcome to Occupations, the podcast, where we discuss what it's like to hold specific jobs. Occupations is brought to you by lotsofmaps.com, where you fulfill your vintage map gifting needs. Visit lotsofmaps.com.
Hi, and welcome to Occupations. I'm Andy Jagalinzer, and I'm here today with Mike Eisenstadt. Mike, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Mike is the owner of Encompass Fitness, 2 gyms, am I correct?
Yes.
In Millis, Massachusetts, and Ashland, Massachusetts, and has been owners of a series of gyms over the years, but this one has stuck for many years with him. So I thought I'd bring him in as an owner of a gym and what it takes to do that job. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm married with 4 children, 2 dogs. I live in Needham. Some of my hobbies are ultimate frisbee. That's about it. No, I love outdoor activity. We've just been. I just started mountain biking at night with headlight lamps, which has been very fun. We just brought a truck camper, and we've been doing some camping on the beach. And sort of my next stage of life now that my kids are a little older and getting to college and out of college. But very happy and hopefully very healthy.
Well, healthy is obviously the key word here because that's what you do for a living is health and fitness. And tell me a little bit about your gyms right now. Tell me a little bit about them.
Well, like a lot of small businesses, we're sort of still recovering from COVID. So I think we've turned a corner. Basically, we're sort of a full-service gym. We're in that in-between niche, in between Planet Fitness and Equinox. We're probably about $50 a month in terms of price point, which is sort of in the middle.
Is that how you rate Planet Fitness and Equinox based on the cost, or
usually with the it's the old saying, you pay for what you get, which is true. Equinox could be $150 a month, but it's a beautiful facility. It's pristine locker rooms and a few added benefits. Where Planet Fitness, which is still great, is $10 a month, and it's sort of bare bones. So we're sort of, our model has always been since 1992 when we first opened. That sort of in between where we have a lot of equipment. It's a little different than like a YMCA. We have a little more upgraded equipment, a little more variety, and we also offer some group exercise classes. And that sort of sets us apart from a Planet Fitness or one of the little mom and pop gym. We have, right now we have about 25 classes a week. Pre-COVID, we probably had 45. So we're still inching back, from those days.
That's great. Well, let's start at the beginning. I know you were an athlete in high school and probably prior to. Was that a big part of the reason why eventually you ended up in the gym business and the fitness business? Was your activity, your athleticism, was that a big part of it, or was it more a business decision?
My business acumen is very little. It's getting better by better each year and day. But we started in '92, so I was 25, right out of college. I graduated from Colby College in 1990. Played track and football. And I was definitely like a meathead, a gym rat. Not hardcore meathead, but meathead enough. And I loved the gym, working out. And, I also played basketball and stuff like that, pickup. But for the most part, I really did enjoy the gym. So I graduated in '90, June of '90, and really had little direction, sort of doing odd jobs, landscaping. I worked for MVP Sports for a while. And then I had a friend who also was interested in, weightlifting and the gym life. And we sort of had this pipe dream of opening up a gym in Needham. That was our hometown. And it definitely was a pipe dream for a while. We looked at equipment and this and that, but it never really was happening. And then his father happened to be a CFO of a casino in Vegas, and he knew we were getting serious. he basically became our bank. That's how we sort of opened up the first gym. We signed all the papers, and he basically loaned us the money because we didn't even attempt to go to a bank as two 25-year-old kids with this pipe dream. So we opened up a 12,000 square foot facility in Needham, and then it just exploded, which was great.
So was there an existing gym somewhere in Needham or no? So there was a need for it.
There was definitely a need, and we knew it. And that's sort of, we've always been said since college. We used to lift at a little gym called Newton Nautilus, and it was great, but it was small, and it was the only game in town. So we knew once we got this going, it would take off, and it exploded. Probably within 6 months, we needed more space. So we took another 4,000 square feet, and it was the first 3 or 4 years. This is in '92 in the fall. It was the only game in town, and it was really fun. And we were all young. We were into that lifestyle, so we had no issues working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, and it was what we loved. I still do. And so then, about 3, 4 years later, we took a space across the street from us, which was 40,000 square feet. So more than double. And things, were still going great. A little bigger, more headaches when you have more square footage like that.
Well, let me ask you this before you go further. So you said you didn't have the business acumen. So did your friend have that business acumen?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
He was a business major at URI, but he also, liked the gym. And his father helped us a lot in terms of, this is what you got to do. You got to keep your payroll down. You got to do this because I had worked my whole life, but never owned, a company or anything like that. So it was
lemonade stand.
Yeah, pretty much nothing. But and even to this day, I'm still learning to this day. Like I can't believe how little I knew back then, and I'm probably in another 10 years, I'll probably say the same about where I am right now.
Right. So at that point, so you kept growing and growing, and
we kept growing.
Yeah.
We looked for other spaces. So we opened up a gym in Natick, H.F. Brown Way, sort of on the Framingham line. Then we opened up a gym in Ashland. We actually bought an existing gym there, and then we bought our gym in Millis, probably 2005.
Now, at some point, I know you were associated with Gold's, and for a long period of time. How long were you associated with Gold's?
We were probably 15 years.
So how quickly from the beginning did you get involved with Gold's?
Right off the bat.
Oh,
because
okay.
one of the things right at the time we opened, there was a little bit of a mistrust in the gym industry, which always sort of ebbs and flows. But we had Bally's that would take, lifetime memberships, then they would close and things like that. So we were looking for an established brand. And at the time, Gold's was pretty much, instead of a franchise, it was a license. So you just bought the name. So I think the first year it was $3,000 for the year. You buy the name, you do what you want. Other chains were more money, but they also were a little more, it might have been 8,000, but they would help you with this and this and this. And we were like, you know what? Once we just have the name, we can pretty much do fill in the blanks. And so that was great, probably for 10 years. And then the Gold's name, the industry changed a little bit. Instead of the Zubaz pants and the T. Michael tank tops, it turned a little more into fitness instead of bodybuilding. And we found the name in a way was detracting from our business. So we were looking more for that 30 to 40-year-old mom who wanted to do an aerobics class instead of the 24-year-old, 250-pound guy who wanted the 130-pound dumbbells. So and then the Golds increased their rate every year. So by the end, we were paying close to $3,000 a month.
Wow.
And we just decided, let's do our own brand. And, after about a month, we came up with Encompass Fitness, which is supposed to be encompassing your fitness goals and a lot of different things. And it was a great decision on many fronts. So.
Did any of your clients have issues with that, changing away from the Golds? I mean, did it affect them in any way?
No, it's funny you say that. No one had an issue except I had one guy the day before we were changing the name, and he got in my face with the cell phone, and he was like really hardcore, I can't believe you're changing. And I'm cancel my membership right now. I was like, everything's exactly the same. The weights are the same. The classes are the same. The hours are the same. He just wanted that Gold's, I guess, name. And that was literally the only issue. And I think, now if Encompass, it's a much better name for what we're looking to do.
So where is that guy right now? Is he still a member?
No. He did. I actually, that's another point we can get into later, but there's probably 1% of the members that give you 80% of the headaches.
Yeah, of course.
He was one of those guys, so I just wrote him a check for the remainder of his balance, and that's one thing I've learned too. It's much easier you're not going to please everyone all the time.
So is he sad and out of shape somewhere now without a gym to call home?
I'm not sure. I don't even want to predict where he is.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the gym industry as a whole. Now, I know there's certain times of the year. New Year's is usually a resolution kind of time where people decide this is the year I'm gonna get it all together and join a gym and get in shape and blah blah blah. I'm sure that's one of the biggest times of the year for you for signing up new folks. Obviously, that's got to be big for you, right?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
So do you guys feel like your membership goes up, but do you encourage people to stay with it? I mean, I imagine that, you hear the horror stories of people that say they're going to do it, and they do it for a month, and the next thing you know, it's done. Or they go out and they buy a bike at home or something like that, and next thing you know, it's a clothes rack because they stop using it. So how do you encourage people to keep going and give them that kind of boost that they need to keep going?
Yeah, unfortunately, the business model for a lot of gyms is, come sign up and don't go. Yeah. That's where a lot of gyms, we call them sleepers. So people sign up, they come a few times, and then they don't come forever. What I really try to encourage is a couple things. First off, get set up. We have a free complimentary training session. So if people feel comfortable about the gym, and they know what they're doing, I think they're more apt to come, and if they see small little gains, then I think, that'll keep them coming. The other thing we do, group classes, which is a great way, not only for, you almost have a personal training session with 30 other people, but there's something with that group dynamic where you make friends. Like a lot of our Millis Club, we have the same 20 or 30 people going to a bunch of these classes, and they've, become friends, and it's a little social network. And if they're not there, they check on each other and stuff. So it's a nice sort of checks and balances issue. So in terms of emails or whatever, like we try to, if someone hasn't been for, a month or so, we'll give them a little nudge. But for the most part, we're such a, we probably have a couple thousand members, so we really can't track it too much. But there's a few things. But I'm a total softie, and I'm not. And I know a lot of business people will say this, but I really have never been in this for the money. I almost can't believe I get paid doing it, because it's I love being in the gym. I teach classes too, and sometimes I train people. So I really want people to use the gym, and so if they're not using it, and they've been in a class or something, I'll give them a call, and then, use it or lose it, basically, So anyway, so I really encourage people just to stick with it. Just literally getting in the door is the hardest step. Once you're there, you'll figure out something, and it's better than not being there.
So you had talked about the gym industry having a trust issue at one point. I know that certainly women, for a long period of time, have felt intimidated going to gyms, with a lot of, guys that are there to beef up and, how do you control that aspect of it so that you keep yourself a nice, peaceful place to go, whether you're a guy or a girl?
It's funny because the early gym in the 90s with Natick and Needham, it was like Studio 54 in some sense. There was all sorts of shenanigans. It was, I don't know if it was intimidating, but it was, there was the boardwalk where people would walk and check everyone out. Now, there's a couple different things we do. First of all, we we really encourage gym etiquette. No one's throwing dumbbells around. We actually, back in the day, we had 160-pound dumbbells all the way down. Now we stop at about 100. So that sort of takes a little bit of that meathead element out of it. And our clientele is great, and it's definitely shifted because we're more in sort of out west in the suburbs. So our clientele is 40, 50-year-old women. So like that 25-year-old meathead guy isn't really getting much.
So
much.
so there's a place for them elsewhere.
Yeah,
I assume?
yeah. There's a few in our area. There's a few powerlifting gyms and things like that,
Got it.
and a lot of the younger people, at least in the towns we're in, Ashland and Millis, once they're 25, 30, they're usually out in Boston. So we have like a high school crowd, college crowd, and then that 25 to 40-year-old demographic isn't really hugely populated.
So if you were located in inner city, you'd have to sort of reshuffle your idea of how to control the clientele in
Definitely.
one way or another.
100%.
Okay.
And we still do. Like we've had to, obviously with COVID, we had mask issues and we'd have to really, walk the floor, and we're still very owner present. So we're on site every day, or at least I am at both the clubs. And I think that leads a lot where you're not leading from the back. You're sort of leading from the front.
Right. And I know you personally you get yourself involved firsthand in a lot of things you do, which is great for a client, I would imagine, to see the owner being involved, and instead of just sitting as a fat cat somewhere in a penthouse somewhere collecting big money, you're there doing it along with them, which is great. What kind of standards do you guys need to keep on a regular basis as far as the state is concerned? I mean, you must have to have CPR training and things along the lines of that. Am I wrong about that?
Actually, no. The only really thing we need is we do get a permit from the Board of Health, and that's just because we sell food. I think there's a very loose gym regulation. It's not that I think it needs to be that tighter, but and they do come once a year. When we used to have tanning booths and things, there was a lot more, this and that and jumping through some hoops. But we technically, and I could be wrong on this, we don't really need to have a defibrillator. We do, and everyone's trained on it and CPR certified, but I'm not. I just do that because you don't want to be in a situation where you need to use it or you don't have it. So in terms of like health club regulations, I maybe a defibrillator, but I don't know. Like we really encourage.
You have it anyway, so that's
we have
not
it
really an
anyways,
issue.
and and we have.
So the state doesn't really regulate it too hard.
No,
the gym
no.
itself.
To be honest, no.
Interesting.
There's not a lot of regulations in terms of what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And again, that could be by town. Like the city of Boston might have a little more stringent. Like I know with COVID, the city of Boston had some different regulations than the Massachusetts as a state. So
wear and tear on your equipment, on your floors and such. How often do you find yourself replacing equipment, major equipment? I'm sure these machines are made for serious use, but over time, I'm sure things break and wear and tear. How often do you find yourself replacing equipment or having to do a rehab on a gym?
we do the sort of Nautilus machines, which you might, the selectorized machines. Those are like tanks. We very rarely, the only thing we replace on them are the pads, to be honest. We oil them, but there's very little upkeep, which is great. And then some of the other machines we sort of cycle through. Like about 5 years ago, we purchased all new step mills and treadmills. So right now we're sort of cycling out of things. And usually when a machine is done, it's trashed. We have a few machines now that are like rusty, and we really want to sort of get them off the floor. So, but a lot of these are meant for heavy duty commercial look. So as long as you're sort of upkeeping them, we're pretty diligent in terms of detailing them and cleaning them. That's the main thing, and then keeping them oiled. And we do have an equipment guy who comes in as needed and does sort of the major repairs on like a belt or a motor on a treadmill or something. Because they are like, in a perfect world, we replace them every 5 years, but like a treadmill could be $5,000-$6,000.
Yeah,
So they're
sure.
pretty pricey.
Yeah, I imagine that initial investment to buy the equipment, to buy the mats and all the things that go with a gym is an exorbitant amount of money just to get going. Obviously, if you're opening a facility, you need to get the building right as well. So I'm sure that's a major cost. Tell me a little bit about COVID. Now, we talked a little bit about it. Everything shut down, clearly, especially at the beginning when we had no concept of how this thing spread. We weren't allowed to touch anything that someone else has touched. I imagine you shut down completely for a long period of time. Is that true?
Yeah, 3.5 months. So I remember it was, I think, the day before St. Patty's Day. And you'd hear all these rumors and things. And then, the governor decree, and we were closed for 3.5 months. So I wish I could tell you that I did something productive with those 3.5 months. Like I was going to learn the guitar or Spanish or the Rubik's Cube to solve, but it never panned out. But it did give us some time to really, we'd go into the gym every day, even though it was closed. And we ripped up the floor on the cardio deck and put down new flooring, and we detailed all the equipment. So we were keeping busy, and the 3.5 months, even though it was exhausting, it went by pretty quick. And then we reopened, and we just sort of started anew with the masks and things like that. So it seems like 10 years ago, but it really was only, I don't even know, 3 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So
not even.
Yeah.
So how did the masking work? I mean, obviously, keeping distances from each other was a big part of it too, especially early on before we were getting the vaccines. Were you making sure that there was a lot of distance between people on machines? And what about classes? Did you do classes originally?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. So 2 things. Right before the day we opened, I moved each machine 4 feet apart. And it was backbreaking work.
Yeah.
And then the next day it was like, okay, 6 feet apart. I was like, damn. So I had to literally go back and move it the extra 2 feet. So we separated all the equipment. Each cardio piece we basically turned off in between. So we had 6 feet in between. And classes we did, I did 1 class outside for the whole year. We did it in snow, rain.
Great.
It was great. We also live streamed it. So if you remember, we gave access to it and you could watch it back. So that was really fun because we would bring the speaker outside, crank the tunes, and it was gritty. But we had probably 20 to 30 people in my Thursday class, and it was really fun. So anyway, then and then when we did move indoors, probably 3 months after we opened, we spaced everything out. We had a sign-up sheet online. We had a certain amount of classes and things like that. So that was in our Millis gym. Ashland, we just finally resumed classes because it's a smaller studio. So we really didn't feel comfortable packing people in that space. So
yeah, I imagine, especially with working out and doing aerobic stuff or cardio stuff that you do, I mean, you're breathing as heavy as you possibly can. That's the one industry you think of that could spread the disease probably better than any other industry.
Yeah.
So yours. Did the state mandate your industry harder than others? Did you find that or no?
I think so. We actually had a couple Board of Health. It was mainly that people would complain. So we'd have a member in Ashland who said, "Oh, I saw a bunch of people not wearing their mask at the gym." And again, when you're doing cardiovascular, it's not even healthy to be running full speed on a treadmill with a mask. But we were trying to enforce it as best we could. So a lot of times we would get a drop by the Board of Health person, and by the end, after about the 6th or 7th. We didn't really care as much. I mean, we addressed it and we were nice to him, but we're like, it is what it is. I mean, we're doing our best to police this, and this is it. And we had there's a lot of little things, like we had to shut the water fountain down because they, and again, I don't blame anybody because it was a big mystery. No one knew, how this thing was spread and things like that. So it was like anything else. It was sort of a work in progress.
I imagine that was tough throughout the entire industry, trying to figure out what the right thing to do was, and I'm sure the state didn't really know what to do either at that time, and just keeping you shut down probably was the best thing for everybody. But I'm sure you fought through it. I'm sure people were happy to get back in there again.
Definitely.
Was there? Do you think most people were a little nervous at that point, or?
It's funny. I think people still are. Like for the health industry, at least in our little niche, things will never be the same, which is fine. I think a lot of things with COVID, you sort of learn to you're at peace with. It is what it is, as they say. But I think there's a lot of people that will never go back to a gym. They're definitely sort of scarred for life. They might not go to even a grocery store, and then a lot of people bought the Peloton or something like that. So they sort of, they'll come back eventually. We've seen that, but we're probably still down 30% on what we were, back in the day. So,
obviously that's the other good question. So when I don't want to call it a fad because it does seem every couple of years there's a new piece of home equipment that comes out that sort of grabs people and people go crazy and buy it. Peloton is obviously one of the big things I would think at this point. Has been for the last couple of years. How does that hit you? Do you notice that right away when something like that becomes a big thing, or do you not?
No, we definitely do. And again, it is sort of cyclical. And the great thing, I think, and I'm biased, but about going to a gym or a studio or whatever, is you do get that sort of group dynamic, and there's a little bit of an uplifting, and it's socially, mentally, physically. I think you push yourself a little harder when you're around other people. There's a great, social component, and I think, like everything else, eventually the Peloton sort of fad, after a year or two of being in your basement by yourself, it gets a little old,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's a great product, but I've already seen a lot of people that are, sort of coming back to the gym because they've sort of, mentally aged out of the Peloton.
So when celebrities on TV are dying using the Peloton, are you cheering that, or are you?
Secretly, actually, when the Peloton burns up, the treadmill or something like that, I secretly smile a little bit. And,
Lotsofmaps.com. Vintage, local, national, and world maps for an affordable price. 99% of our maps are $25 or less. Great as gifts. Frame them or put them under glass for your home, vacation home, or as a memory of a special place. Lotsofmaps.com.
So when somebody is going through a physical issue, you're not a physical therapist. Your gym does not have physical therapists at the gym. I would assume you don't have any that are on the payroll. At what point do you help people over physical issues that are happening medically with them? And when do you say you shouldn't be here at that point? Or do you accept people coming in after they've been rehabbing an injury and say, okay, let's get you on this particular schedule or something along the lines of that? Do you deal with people that are going through physical limitations, physical
oh yeah,
injuries?
all the time. You would think I almost am a doctor because they ask me. I have a little tinge in my kneecap, but for the most part, I mean, I have been through a decent amount of training in terms of my certification, so I can, and I've been in this industry for over 25 years, so a lot of the stuff I can sort of diagnose, and relatively minor stuff. Other stuff, obviously, like we'll say you should shut it down. Like even if it's as a hamstring strain, it's like, all right, you know what? I know you want to work out. Take a couple days, ice it, rest it, elevate, and then just work back slowly. Because people that are addicted to the exercise, they will come even on a broken leg practically, And in terms of the rehab, we have trainers who, like after someone, we've had a bunch of hip and knees and stuff like that, where they come in with their little sheet from the Baptist, and we'll have one of the trainers just walk through the machines to sort of make sense of it as sort of rehab. So I wouldn't say back in Needham we had Kennedy Brothers Physical Therapy, and we could just send everyone right to them, which was great, and they were awesome. But now we sort of do it through our trainers after they've sort of been diagnosed and whatnot.
Got it. And I imagine there's a point where you just say, you're not allowed back in here because you're bleeding all over the machines. And
we haven't got to that yet, but I have to say on a sort of serious note, I did have to end a girl's membership because she was severely anorexic.
Wow.
And a lot of the members came up to me and I asked her, I go, don't take this the wrong way. There's a few of these like moments where I usually get stuck with it because I'm the nice guy. So yeah,
I see that. I can see
and
that.
then I've been like, we're just sort of concerned about your health. Could you give us a doctor's note? And they couldn't, and so we had to sort of terminate the membership, which was sad.
Yeah.
And it's happened a couple times in 25 years. So, but again, we want to make sure not only for the business liability aspect, but just from the human aspect that no one's endangering themselves or others.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tell me a little bit about your trainers and your training programs. So you have one-on-one programs that you deal with
We
folks?
do. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, and what kind of programs do you have? Are they standard, or are there special setup ones that are set up for specific folks that need specific help?
Yeah, pretty much. Way back in the day, we would almost demand every member get an intro training with one of our trainers. Now we basically have no training department, but we have independent trainers. So if someone needs a session, we'll go to one of those people. So they don't technically work for the gym. They pay us a fee off their training fee, and then they're sort of independent contractors. So they, for the most part, do primarily one-on-ones, and it's great because they're all very individualized towards each person's goal. So we probably have 5 or 6 trainers in Millis who've been with us for 20 years, and 3 or 4 in Ashland, and they're all sort of a different niche. There's like we have a trainer, Ted, that's been there for a while, and he's great, and he basically is up on all the stuff and new stuff, and we have some field turf, so he'll do that, and athletes. And then we have other trainers who are more specific for like a 40-year-old woman or a 50-year-old woman. They're more comfortable with a woman, so they're all sort of, there's a lot of different sort of gloves to fit everybody.
So Mike, tell me a little bit about your day-to-day. You must have to get up at the crack of dawn to get to these gyms. I know a lot of folks like to work out before they go to work. What's your day-to-day like, and how do you deal with I would assume long hours, or at least early hours?
Great question. So I've become civilized in my old age a little bit more. So when we first opened the gym, as I was saying, we put in some hours. Like, again, we were single. I would get in there at 11, work out for a couple hours, and stay till 11 o'clock at night. And then we do like every other weekend, 7 to 7. So there was a long hours. Then, as the gym progressed, we got managers and things like that. So I would say now, day to day, I'm up. And then I also went through a stage where I would open every morning. So we open up at about 4:30, 4:45. So my alarm clock at 3:39, 5 days a week, would wake me up. And I'd go home probably at 12:01, take a solid 2-hour nap, and then do it all over again.
3:39.
3:30. It was an odd enough number where it would shock me up. It wasn't 3:40 because it had to be an odd number.
I love it.
The tough thing was that when I my roommates, when we first would do that, I would take my nap from 1:30 to 3:30, and at 3:30 I would wake up, and sometimes they'd find me like storming out the door, and they called it a Vietnam flashback. So I would just think it was the morning, and I would be like, I'm late, and they would have to restrain me from leaving.
So why not 3:39? Why 3:30?
What do you mean in terms of getting up?
Getting up after the nap, it's 3:30
Oh,
versus
yeah. That was just random. There was no alarm set for the nap. I mean, that could have gone till 5 o'clock.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now, honestly, Monday mornings I'm in at I get up around 4:15. I'm in by 5, and I do some of my paperwork. I teach a class Monday, and then I'm usually home by noon. Most days, to be honest, now I'm in by 7:30. Out by 1:30, and then I'm sort of on call till the gym closes, and similar on the weekends. I at this point in my life, I'm 55. I try not to go in on the weekends. If I do, it's sort of socially, just to like get a workout in or things like that. I also have a camera system, so every morning usually I get up anyways at 4:30, and I just check on the camera to make sure the gym's open, because that's the biggest thing. Once the gym's open, that's 50% of our issue. There's been a lot of times where I've looked on the camera, it's 4:40, no one's there. I've had to get in my car and open up the gym and be on it and in my PJs. But that's part of being a business owner.
Yeah, sure. And obviously you're working on weekends too, or at least the gym is open on weekends. You also open reasonably late at night too. How late are you open till typically?
Well, it's funny. Back in the day, I think we've gotten a little smarter. We've when you're young, everything's like, oh, I want to be open from 4 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night, and even if it's, but I think again, one of those business things we've learned, we looked at the numbers and there was 4 people checking in from 10 to 11 at night. And we're like, why are we even turning the lights on, employees? So now we're still open at 5, and that's a pretty universal opening time. And then we close at 9 o'clock. And then pre-COVID, we were 7 to 7 on the weekends. Then after COVID, we were 7 to 3. Now we're 7 to 5. So I think we'll stay there for a while.
So you're still open 16 hours a day during the week. That's a long period of time. You must have decent managers that work with you as well, and folks that you can rely on to help run the place when you're not there.
Oh, definitely. Like in Millis, we have a woman who's been with us for 20 years. She's there every morning at 4:30 and that's huge for me. I don't even have to worry about that. And it's funny, we lately we've started hiring older people like my age, 55 to even 70. We just hired this guy that looks like Blue from Old School. He's about 72, but they know. A lot of the older employees know what's expected of them. They know to get to work a little early. A lot of the younger, and I know this is probably like an old man gripe, but a lot of our high school employees or even college employees are, they'll show up late. They'll be on their phone and this, that. Some of the older employees lately, literally in the last 6 months, we've hired a bunch, and it's been great. They're a little less computer literate, which, to be expected.
Of course.
But I'll take that as opposed to someone who can whip through a computer but's on their phone, 45 minutes every day.
And how do they deal with the young whippersnappers?
The older people? Yeah, they're fine. Actually, I think there's a little more street cred because a lot of times when you have a high school kid working at the desk, a fellow high school kid who might go to the same high school or a college kid can try to bully him a little bit more, sneak through. I think the older people, it's almost like trying to get past your crusty grandfather.
Get off my lawn. That's good, and that must make you feel good to get some older folks a little bit of money when they probably could use it. That's always a nice thing for sure.
Totally.
Us old folks, we're hurting.
Yeah.
How about crazy stories? You must have some wild and crazy stories over the years. I mean, you've spent a lot of time there yourself. I know gym people can be a little different than the average folks, but I'm sure you have some good, maybe PG. Well, it's up to you. I don't care. We can make this an R-rated thing if you want. I don't care. It's up to you. What do you want to tell?
We've done I honestly, and I'm sure a lot of gym owners say this, I should have written a book or some sort of TV pilot because there's been a lot of crazy things like. We had 2 guys fist fighting as a birthday party was coming into the gym back in Needham. Yeah, it was in the parking lot. That was. Hopefully all those kids are out of therapy, but we've had a bunch of great stories and a couple. I mean, I probably forget a lot of the really good ones when I was younger, which is probably good. But we had an issue 6 months ago, not an issue, but I got an email from a member, really nice guy, and he was trying to tell me that there was an old Russian gentleman who was parading around naked in the bathroom in the sauna and was using his blow dryer in places that probably didn't need to be seen in a public view. So he sent this great, very, very, very nicely worded email about that. And then at the very end, he said, "Go Pats." It was just great. It was almost like took the edge off. You know what I mean? But that was I'll share that email with you, and you maybe not, with the
it wasn't one of the Patriots coaches or players.
No,
it was,
no,
okay,
no.
All right. That's good to
No,
know.
but we've had a lot of funny.
Now, I
stories
remember
over
you
the years.
used to have a wild turkey running around your Needham outside the Needham a gym attacking people.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah, we had turkeys like running wild. This is probably 15 years ago, and yeah, we between the 4 gyms. I mean, I will. That'll be the next podcast, maybe.
Any odd requests from folks? Anything where people come up and say, "Hey, you should have a sex swing."
Well, it's funny. I did get. It ended up being one of my buddies, a prank phone call, but he asked for a big toe machine, and I actually listened to it, and I was trying to come back with a rebuttal, and then he burst out laughing.
A big toe machine to work out your big toe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have had over the years some none that crazy. Like there used to be like a neck machine that people would want. It was like old school, like Jack LaLanne type thing with like a strap. So usually if someone requests something, I'll definitely look into it and, half the time buy it. And I'll be like, oh yeah, if it's like we had a few things that someone requested. I forget what it was, and it was like $20. No one's used it yet, but I bought it and I was like, here it is. So anyway,
you must see some weird and wacky things pop up on, I don't know. Do you have some sort of industry magazine that comes out and shows new technologies or new whatever?
Yeah.
There must be some pretty wild stuff out there that you probably turn away and go new.
Exactly. But it is sort of interesting to see where the gym industry has evolved in 30 years. Like it used to be, just weights and dumbbells, and then sort of about 10 years after that, it was kettlebells. That was a big thing. And now, bands and the turf, the sort of field turf was a big sort of change where everyone was, instead of doing, bench press and squat, was pushing the sled and doing more functional movements. And I think that was sort of the direction that sort of pro athletes too, like it used to be all about how much can you bench, how much can you squat. Now it's about, jumping rope, the agility ladder and things like that. So
every once in a while, there's weird celebrity spokespeople that pop up because of fitness. I think of Jane Fonda, and I think of
Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers was a good one with her leg thing that she was doing, and Olivia Newton-John for a while there. Yeah. Who's your favorite, first of all those? I got to throw Richard Simmons in there.
Oh, totally, totally.
Who is your favorite of all?
Chuck
Norris, very good, yes.
The other one that I don't even know if it's a celebrity, but the shake weights, which were like I've seen them at the dump recently. I'm thinking of picking a pair up and just putting them on the floor, but that concept's pretty. There's it's funny because a lot of the times I can look at it and be like, no. Like, and I'm almost like, please don't buy that, whoever's out there. Like, I had a good friend of mine who has 2 kids, 12 and 14, and he wanted to get his kids into working out. And he was like, what do you think about a Bowflex? And I was like, I've just seen enough, over the years of like Bowflexes as AKA co-racks and things like that. So I discouraged him. I'm like, it's better just to get him some dumbbells and some weights, because that's just one of those things that is you're gonna use it twice, and it'll just be an eyesore.
So jazzercise, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Well, I do. It's funny. I do. Tae-Bo was a big thing too. But anything, honestly, even the Jane Fonda things, like anything that can get people sort of moving. Another one now has been the Insanity. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like so I do my own version of that. It's called Mike Sanity, and
nice.
I just taught it today at 8:30. So that's my own little blend of that. So I don't know if that's going to go viral or go big time yet, but you never know.
So obviously you love what you do, and you've done it for so many years, and obviously you jumped into something you already loved before you jumped into it as a business, and that's pretty unusual. I think most folks have to go through all kinds of different industries and different trial balloons of different things, and you jumped into something that you really loved right off the bat. Obviously, I would assume you'd do it again if you had to do it all over again, or would you do something slightly different?
I mean, in terms of the industry, I would definitely do it again. No questions asked. Obviously along the way you do a few things different. Like one thing on an overall macro scale is I probably would have looked into buying the buildings of each gym, because I think that's a big, that's one of those things. If I could, take back 25 years ago, back then $500,000 for a building sound like a lot. Now, it's probably 10 times that. So there's a few things like that. But in terms of the profession and the direction, I couldn't even have asked for, dreamed of being at this good.
So if you weren't a gym owner, what would you be? If you couldn't do the gym industry at all, besides a Rubik's Cube champion?
Well, I don't know. As a college high schooler, I used to work at the Needham dump, and I really enjoyed that field, if that is a field. So
junk,
yeah. And I'm doing, I have a friend. I have a few friends actually who are about my age who have just recently laid off, and it's in some ways it's great because they've been, sort of working for the man for 30 years, and now obviously they want to earn a living, but now they can sort of reset and do what they want, where I've been able to do what I wanted for the last 25 years and still earn a living. But in a way, it's nice that sort of those people can sort of take a deep breath and be like, you know what, maybe I want to teach, or maybe I want to, collect junk and or throw junk out.
Mike Eisenstadt, thank you for coming on Occupations.
Anytime, Jaggy. It's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. Stay tuned again for another episode of Occupations coming soon.
Occupations has been brought to you by lotsofmaps.com. Please follow Occupations the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to find information about our next episode or to see what past episodes are available.